next half hour or so, because pretty much the most exciting club hurling game in a decade is on Sunday. Now, it just happens to coincide with the World Cup final. That is not ideal, but it's a game worth talking about nonetheless. So Michael is with us at 7:30, and then I promise you, we've already recorded it, there is a stellar Wednesday Night Rugby. Andy Dunn, Jerry Thornley in top form. Ronan Mullen, good evening.
Hi, Joe.
And Richie McCormack, hello to you.
Gentlemen, how are you?
When I say top form, I mean it. Spellbinding.
Top form.
Oof. Honestly, so good. We went on a 25-minute tangent, which I think is the only way to do these things.
Stepping on toes of other programming there, Joe. But, all right.
Not a slight tangent. It was a mammoth
major tangent. Okay.
Tangent. And it was great. Because Jerry happened to make the point just briefly at the top that he thought La Rochelle's new number 10 is good. And Andy Dunn started talking about Anglo-Saxon number 10s versus French number 10s versus Australian number 10s. And woof.
I remember the piece we did a couple of years ago, probably at this stage, with Will Greenwood and Andy Dunn.
Oh, yeah.
Former teammates. And the irreverence that Andy Dunn brought to the position when he first got there. Because, I'm sure, would he describe himself as a maverick?
Yeah, absolutely. He was not an Anglo-Saxon out half. Yes.
So even the people over there were like, oh God, this guy, bit of something about him.
Yeah.
And to impress Will Greenwood, obviously World Cup winner, would take a bit of doing.
Yeah. I remember saying that Will Greenwood were talking through games as well quite a lot, because 13 could see that bit more, 12 could see that bit more, and he would say, space, backfield, kick, and then get up, kick, look and say, oh, you were right, there was. So that's on the way between 8 and 9, Jerry Thornley and Andy Dunn coming at you. We should start the news round, because that will get us to team news, which is all important. We're 3 minutes into this game now. The news round brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. And Richie, France forced into 2 changes.
Yeah, they were pretty hopeful that both Dio Upamecano and Adrien Rabiot could play tonight. That was this time last night, but as the 24 hours progressed, their illnesses seemingly didn't improve, and they have been ruled out of tonight's semi-final with Morocco. Instead, Ibrahima Konate starts at the heart of the French defence alongside Raphael Varane, with Youssouf Fofana taking the place of Rabiot in midfield. There's good news of sorts, I guess, for Morocco. Key defenders Naif Aguerd, Roman Saïs and Noussair Mazraoui are all past fit to start, although none are believed to be anywhere close to 100% fit. They have added an extra body in defence as well, just to mitigate against the French attacks.
Go!
As we say, 4.5 minutes played, and we have had our first goal of the night, and it has gone to France. Argentina awaiting the winners in Sunday's final.
Yes, Theo Hernandez. Wow. So 5 minutes, that's the first goal Morocco have conceded that wasn't an own goal, and it's Hernandez. There was an initial shot which was really well saved, or deflected, I'm not sure which, and then the ball took an age. It took a big bounce. It took an age to fall to Hernandez on at a bit of an angle left hand side of the goal, and he waited for it and he volleyed in. So we're watching it again. Looks like Griezmann gets it, sends it into the area. It might be Mbappe who swings a foot on it, and it's deflected up in the air, takes a big bounce, and Hernandez shows a lot of composure to. He has to take the ball relatively high. It's higher than he would like to take it from this massive bounce. So he takes it almost head height because the goalkeeper's coming out. But he manages to get it down into the ground, one bounce under the keeper. The keeper gives it the old Peter Schmeichel star jump, and it's hit into the ground, bounces to his right, in at the near post. Whoa. Now Morocco.
It's the worst possible start for Morocco.
It really is.
And it's interesting, just off the back of Richie's team news, which was timely because he's talking through the enforced changes that France have had to make, and there's a good chance Hernandez wouldn't be in the team if his namesake was fit, and France have had to kind of cobble together what is still a very stellar team on paper, but you'd like to imagine what it would be like had the full deck been available to them. And even Rabiot, who Manchester United fans essentially had got together to ward off the signing of him during the summer because they didn't rate him, has actually been a fundamental player in the team. But the fact that France can keep the depth chart is so or such that they can still string performances like this together.
It's pretty impressive. Now,
they're going with pace, Joe, tonight. I think that's the difference between what Morocco faced in their last 2 matches. France are trying to get in behind them, and they're trying to really test the nerve, and I guess because Morocco are so compact and so brilliantly compact in defending against those two previous teams, but France are really trying to stretch them tonight. They've already done it, and I think they probably have the capacity to do it again a couple of times, and it's really
they definitely
an
do.
invidious position for Morocco.
It is, and as you said, Ronan, to go 1-0 down is definitely not in their preferred game plan. Now, I did try and tell you boys that Croatia were going to do a number last night in Argentina, so I think it's time we revisit that point.
Yeah, well, I think my concluding remark was that in a game where Croatia would dominate possession, there's just more moments in the Argentina team, individual brilliance, and I thought Messi, it's safe to say the microcosm of his brilliance was captured pretty well by that assist.
Yeah.
And even the second goal, which was very secondary school, like a Leaving Cert student playing football against the first years, just bundling through. And
it was the most bundling through goal that there's ever been.
Yeah, and even that was remarkable in its own way. So at the end of the day, Croatia, for all that they had brilliant technique in the middle of the park, they just didn't have cutting edge at the other end, and that was always going to be their undoing.
No, and it really was their undoing. Like, there was the briefest glimmer of a chance before Argentina scored where they worked it very well down the right hand side, Croatia, and almost at an opening it was a corner, and you thought, okay, they'll be able to, in spite of the massive handicap of not having a striker, they'll be able still to do something, and then boom.
And of the penalty, what's your
I have to say, well, I was watching it on mute because I'm obviously in here, and so I don't know what the commentary were saying. I didn't think it was a penalty. I thought there was absolutely a strong case for a penalty, and I understood the case, but I would have felt that the goalkeeper is more than within his rights to come out as far as he thinks is appropriate, and then he realises he's not getting the ball, and then I think he mostly stood his ground. Now, there was the half a flick of a right leg perhaps, but I think there's benefit of doubt there in that he's also trying to save a shot, and so he doesn't know where the ball's going to go, so he's allowed to move his hand or move his leg, and I think ultimately it was who ran into him?
Alvarez.
Yeah, Alvarez did more run into him than he ran into Alvarez. Yeah. So I kind of thought it's very, very, very harsh, but I do seem to be in the minority on that one.
Yeah, although the ITV panel were unanimous in agreement with you, saying they didn't think it was a penalty.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, and
I knew that ITV panel
listen,
was the best.
There you go. But I think it's a known pattern in game football where I think in each of their mind's eye they'll know, if I don't get the ball here, the goalkeeper would have been thinking, if he gets ahead of me and I make contact with him, it's a penalty. It's just that pattern of play is borne out so often. And
did Alvarez do enough to try and get round the keeper?
This is the thing, though. What makes it different is Alvarez got a shot away. It wasn't a very good shot, but if he was trying to nick it past the goalkeeper with a view to tapping it into an empty net, it's a stonewall penalty without question. Where the question does come into it is that, like, he did in theory direct the ball towards goal, and I think that's probably the little line of demarcation. I would say, though, on the balance of probabilities, it was a penalty.
Would you?
Yeah.
Rich, do you want to cast your vote here?
It just lands in that I've seen them given, and I can understand why it was given. And to be honest with you, in that position, I can understand why it was a penalty. I'm probably with you. I mightn't have given it, but I don't think there's a massive strong argument against it being given.
It's not a scandal at all. No.
I'm just picturing Richie waving his arms, saying no, like that famous referee's gesture.
And I know it shouldn't come into it. It absolutely shouldn't come into it. But again, if I was the referee, it would have crossed my mind. It's a World Cup semi-final. Got to be sure.
Yeah, but Messi put it beyond doubt in terms of the actual execution of the kick. It's fair to say,
be a bigger talking point today if Argentina weren't such convincing winners.
But what a penalty, though! Like, it was exactly what Harry Kane was trying to do. I would say a couple of days ago, just right in the postage stamp, and he really gave it. He really smashed it, which is not like we were talking off air yesterday about Messi. I was positing that potentially he is the worst penalty record of all time.
Yeah.
Because he's missed so many penalties and still gets a chance to take them, because who's going to take the ball off him?
Yeah.
It's not as if Otamendi's going to walk up and like, Leo, give me this one.
So in percentage terms, and just in terms of most penalties missed in professional football,
most penalties missed
has missed the most penalties in professional football. I think this is a good argument he has. It's an incredible stat. I think you do well to tweet that right now. And
yeah. Like, the lads outside are definitely going to clip Leo Messi, the worst penalty taker of all time. I wouldn't go that far.
Yes.
But, maybe I would.
You can trust those guys out there. They wouldn't do that to you.
No. There's lots of love. Lots of love there.
And then, of course, there was the Alvarez second, but really it's the Messi assist. And I think we've all seen the phone coverage of somebody who was on the halfway line pretty much and got the initial moments of the move and then followed the play. I guess what's so kind of glorious about it, aside from the fact that he's doing this to maybe the best defender in the tournament, is that he now has to beat players so often because his pace can't do it for him. So he initially beats him on the halfway line and starts scurrying away. But of course, Garvey's right beside him the whole way. He's like, I'm still with you. I'm not in your rearview mirror. So I'm going to track you all the way into the box. And then I was saying to Dion last night on the football show, I think most players of a certain stature, any of the quote-unquote world-class players or great players, and certainly all-time great players, they could do what Messi did in the halfway line and they could get into the box no problem. But I think really what marks him out is just so scarily good was the way with his back to goal that he dropped the shoulder one way and just turned again. Such a tight turn with the left foot and somehow got inside the defender when there was no option to get inside the defender. Your goal side, you're in the box. He stood right behind you. You're done. Like that is your moment. You need to check back out and recycle possession. And so it's when he conjures that moment, I suspect the whole world went, oh my God, this is just incredible. And that is just genius that without the physicality he once had, he is still managing to create these moments, and he's having to do them several times over in a single move. Yeah,
there's so much in it really. Like your first point about if he beat him once, say Mbappe in a similar position beats the player, he's probably streaking in and getting a shot off.
He may well, he'll score Mbappe.
In the same way Messi would have 10 years ago beaten him at the halfway line and got a shot off in typical Messi fashion. But you look at it from the Guardiola point of view, it's like picture book defending. You know, stand him up, don't jump in, push him outside, keep him outside, and he kept him outside all the way.
Yeah,
and like even he was able to recover, and any time Messi got the onus over him, and then it was just the deftness of cutbacks, and as much as Alvarez gets the goal and it'll be in the record books as such, you know, it's a messy moment.
An air of destiny about it all, Richie. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it seems that way, and kind of the way the draw is lined up with Mbappe on the other side. Like I alluded to it yesterday, it's a Qatar World Cup in every which way. Like Nasser Al Khelaifi, who owns Paris Saint-Germain, is rubbing his hands with glee because not only is he the chief and the main operator in European club football as head of the European Club Association, his two of his highest paid employees are going to be squaring off and being the only story, it seems, unless Morocco can pull something off here tonight, the main story in the World Cup final. And you don't want to get into conspiracy theories because I think both, you know, any team that gets through obviously deserves to, but you can't ignore the fact that the two main guys at PSG and the two guys on which they've staked their reputation and a lot of their money in recent years are going to be going head to head in a World Cup final more than likely, in a tournament that's hosted by the people that own Paris Saint-Germain. It's either a terrific coincidence or something more sinister, and I'm probably going to go with the former for obvious legal reasons. But yeah, destiny, I don't know, but I certainly think that there's a lot of undercurrents to this.
I've never really seen Messi as emotive, smiling. Marcela Moreira, who was on with us last night, and she was saying she thought he looked very satisfied, and he was really soaking this in. And it is a very different Messi to the one that I've definitely felt detached from as a human being for much of his career, where you just can't seem to get a scintilla of humanity out of him. He's just a complete poker face at all times. So I feel like he's almost at that stage of his career where he's almost allowing himself feel as opposed to just a player doing a job.
Yeah, and like his international career is almost a story in itself, quite apart from the, you know, remarkable role of honour he's put together at club level. But like your point was replicated by those in Argentina in his early 20s, where they saw him more as a Spaniard playing for the Argentinian team, and just not in the same way Diego was one of us. Like, to be fair, Messi was in Catalonia from his mid-teens, so it's quite understandable. But exactly, it's like the extra % or two that's needed to get Argentina over the line in this vein. It seems to be he's drawing on that emotional energy in a way that he never did before, and it was like the interview post-match in the Netherlands game kind of shone through in spades. And
that was him fully crossing over into
totally
Argentinian territory.
It was like turning heel, as wrestling parlance, but like he was if that's a rising tide that lifts all boats, because Argentinian teams, whether it's cliche or not, there is an emotion there, it's innate, and if he's the figurehead and he's buying into that, it says a lot. And the last point is just the conservation of energy, there's other players who do that because they think I couldn't be bothered, whereas there's such ingenuity in him and genius in him that I think he's actually conserving his energy for moments like last night where it's necessary to have that in the tank. There's no good being all things to all people like he was when Maradona was managing Argentina and Messi was playing midfield essentially.
Yeah.
Like, he's no good to anybody there. So this, for whatever reason, they've stumbled upon it, and even Scaloni being the manager, that was never in the playbook or in the plan.
No.
If this is the mesh of factors that's going to bring them a World Cup, I don't think many people would have scripted it.
18 minutes gone. France are 1-0 up against Morocco. Theo Hernandez with the goal, and just in the past moment, Olivier Giroud has smashed one off the upright. It was not a great moment for Morocco defending, given how well they've defended in this tournament. There was a
poor finish, Joe.
Bit of a punt upfield, and the bounce beat the defender. A certain anxiety there, perhaps, and bounce beat the defender. Giroud smashed it off the upright. It was not a million miles away. Poor finish. Bloody hell, that's harsh.
Yeah. Poor finish. Like, he's one-on-one with the keeper and he snatched at it and it went off the outside of the post when it looked easier probably to get it on target. Yeah.
Was he 20 yards out though?
For the finish? God, no. He was inside the box, I think, for the time.
Okay.
But like, I tell you, it would have been easier to get it on target at least than to. I think he slashed at it a little bit and sliced it, and it came off the outside of the upright. It looks like Roman Saiss is struggling, by the way. Not a surprise, given the fact that his left thigh has been strapped up to bejesus since the middle of the second round game against Spain. He's walking about a lot and looking around, obviously, to the sideline. They had apparently players warming up off the bench more intently than they ordinarily would do. Prior to the game, I guess in anticipation of either Saiss or Aguerd having to go off injured early. That looks like it might well be the case. But, you know, Morocco have had a chance of their own. Unahi has brought a brilliant save before that as well, out of Lloris while you're both talking. So they're certainly not out of it, not at this stage anyway. And as long as they can keep it down to 1-0 closer to half-time, I'd fancy them to get back in it.
Okay. We are prattling on a bit too much here, so why don't you run us through a few stories from the day?
Sure, yeah. Ulster say every effort is being made to ensure their Kingspan Stadium pitch is playable for Saturday's Heineken Champions Cup meeting with La Rochelle. Frost covers have been in place all week, while heaters are also being brought in to preserve the Belfast surface. Ulster say they'll provide daily updates until Saturday's 5:30 kickoff. Adomo Emakhu is the latest young player to leave Shamrock Rovers for an English club. The 19-year-old attacker has joined Championship side Millwall on a long-term deal. Rovers have also lost, of course, Andy Lyons to Blackpool since the end of the season. And Ollie Horgan has wasted little time getting back into SSE Electricity League management. The ex-Finn Harps boss has been named as John Caulfield's new assistant at his hometown club of Galway United.
A bit of a blow for Limerick, start of the new year.
Yeah, a wee one. I think they'll manage to cope, though. Limerick will be without Dermot Burns for the start of their Allianz Hurling League campaign. Your guest later on, Michael Verney, had this story this morning. Despite taking part in pre-season training, the hurler of the year is heading for Dubai after Christmas. Well, for some, Limerick opened their campaign against Cork on February 4th. Meanwhile, Nicky Quaid's understudy as Limerick goalkeeper Barry Hennessy has confirmed his inter-county retirement after 13 years on the panel and 4 All-Irelands.
Now, interesting story in France initially, and there's a bit of contagion at play here. New Zealand rugby not happy.
Yeah, not a surprise that this has had a bit of a knock-on effect. New Zealand Rugby is seeking urgent talks with Altrad regarding the All Blacks jersey sponsorship. Moed Altrad was handed an 18-month suspended prison sentence yesterday as part of the investigation that also convicted Bernard Laporte. Altrad's lawyers claimed yesterday that his company would be unaffected by his sentence, but it seems that it will still have ramifications. New Zealand Rugby only signed a 6-year deal with the Altrad company in August of last year for their logo to appear on the men's and women's All Blacks jerseys. The deal was believed to be worth €18 million for this year and next.
We talk about this with Jerry Thornley in particular on Wednesday Night Rugby. That's on the way after 8 o'clock. Ukraine have made a predictable enough call when it comes to the Olympics.
Yeah, Ukraine's president calling on the International Olympic Committee to ban Russia and Belarusian athletes from the 2024 Games in Paris. Proposals which are yet to be finalised have been put forward for them to compete under neutral flags. But Vladimir Zelensky says the just response to Russia's attack on his country should be complete isolation from the Games.
Do you mind if we skip ahead a story or two? Just because I was flicking through your Newsround. And it's just so sad, this story around Viali, because the diagnosis of pancreatic cancer is generally a chilling one for anyone whose vicinity it darkens, and so Viali's made a decision on his international career at the moment.
Yeah, Gianluca Vialli has stepped down from his role as Italy's head of delegation as he fights pancreatic cancer. The 58-year-old announced in December last year that he was battling the disease for a second time. Vialli has told the Italian Football Federation's website that he's decided to hopefully temporarily suspend his present and future commitments. We wish him best.
It's so sad. You wish him the best, exactly. Even the documentary it's on Netflix about Italy's win at the Euros, he's such a core part of that, and obviously such a legendary player. So it's desperately sad. Fellas, we're pretty much out of time. We're at 22 minutes gone. France 1, Morocco 0. Richie, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you until somebody has won the World Cup. Who's going to win the World Cup?
Argentina.
Okay. Ronan?
Argentina.
Wrong answer, lads. It's actually France.
I pegged you as a romantic, Joe. I thought...
Look, I'm sick of myself talking about this, and I am in a minority of next to nobody, obviously, but I just feel Messi's behaviour this year with Saudi Arabia is unacceptable. It's really dreadful, and I've just lost any love for the man. And yeah, you can separate artist and man, and I love his art, and I watch him do things last night and it gets me out of my seat, but I'm not pulling for him the way I think 99% are.
Yeah, well, you would have been pulling for Luka Modric in a bigger way, I presume.
Yeah, for sure. That's just me. I'm already sick of me talking about this. I'll let people enjoy Messi without making them feel bad about it. Richie, we'll talk on Monday.
Nice one, lads.
Ronan, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Who knows when you'll do this again?
Probably tomorrow.
All right, okay, fair enough. So Ronan Mullen back tomorrow. We have got Michael Verney on the way. First cash machine.
All you need for Christmas.
News Talk's Christmas Cash Machine.
So Paul Ryan was at work in